Welcome to TaylorMade with Nancy Taylor. I'm Nancy Taylor and I'm a Stampin' Up demonstrator, and today I'm going to show you how I made 5 cards from the Rain or Shine suite collection from Stampin' Up. This is a really awesome suite that is about to be retired. The stamps and the dies will stick around, but this is your last chance to get this specialty DSP. You can find out more about the suite on page 50 and page 51 of the mini catalog. It comes with the stamp set, it comes with the dies for cutting, it comes with this really awesome raindrops embossing folder with this great specialty DSP that I'm going to show you in just a minute, as well as these really cool loose daisy embellishments. The colors for the suite are Flirty Flamingo, Cajun Craze, Mango Melody, Old Olive, and Balmy Blue. And that's what I focused on in the cards we're going to make today. I drew from those colors, and so we're going to use a lot of Stampin' Blends. The colors I added on, which are not part of the suite, are Gray Granite and Highland Heather, and you'll see why in just a moment. And something else I really recommend you have is a Wink of Stella, which is going to help give all of your beautiful cards this really amazing raindrop effect. So just to show you, the stamp set comes with 3 critters, a really cute little turtle, a happy bunny, and a little fox. I'm also going to be featuring in this tutorial the Radiating Stitches dies. This is an online exclusive that Stampin' Up just started offering. It makes some really beautiful frames. We're also going to be using the Playing in the Rain dies, which helps us to die cut out all of our critters and some other fun elements that we're going to add to the cards. We're going to be working with this really beautiful Rain or Shine designer series paper. It's called Rain or Shine because one side is rainy and the other side is sunny. You'll see it has a lot of dimension and texture. It's very shiny and it's very beautiful. So if you like this tutorial and you want to help support my business, please consider making an order on stampinup.com using my host code. I am a member of a really amazing team of women. We get together, we craft. This is my first workshop, and I'm really excited and really grateful for their support in helping me put this together. I hope you ladies really love making these cards with me. Please leave comments on the video if you have any feedback or if you have any questions. Please reach out to me. You can reach me at taylormadewithnancy@gmail.com. So let's get started. We're going to use the Give It a Whirl die set, and if you don't have this set, I highly recommend you get it before it is retired. We're going to use the March paper pumpkin. This is how I keep my paper pumpkin stamps. I stamp everything, and then I keep it in its own little case in case I need it again. There is a really cute sentiment that goes well with this. This set was actually made to coordinate with Playing in the Rain. We're also going to use the Into the Clouds embossing folder. This is another item that's on clearance right now, so if you don't have it, I highly recommend you consider adding it to your collection. It's really great. I think it's like $3 right now. We're also going to use the stitch rectangles, which are also going away, but you may have this in your collection. We're going to use that for the inside of the card. It just makes it really easy to have a nice cutout piece in there. We use Stampin' Blends to color our critter. So for this card, we're going to use the light Flirty Flamingo, the Balmy Blue blends, the Daffodil Delight blends, and if you have the color lifter, you may want to use that as well. And we're going to need the basic black Stampin' Right marker. This is also on clearance right now, so if you don't have it, I highly recommend you get it. And finally, our Gray Granite blends. If you have Wink of Stella, I highly recommend that for each of these cards, as it will give it a really cool wet look. The inks we're going to use for this card are Daffodil Delight, our Tuxedo Black Memento, and Balmy Blue. If you ordered a card kit from me, you will have all the materials cut for you, but if you're starting from scratch, this is a rough idea of the materials that you'll need. I went ahead and pre-blocked the stamps we're going to use. We're going to use our bunny. We're going to use our clouds and our raindrops. And from the Sending Sunshine and Smiles paper pumpkin, we're going to use the sun, and we're going to use the sentiment that says friends in any kind of weather. Start from a whole piece of Balmy Blue, and we're going to cut that down in half. So cut that at 5.5 horizontally on your cutter, and that will give you 2 pieces of Balmy Blue. We're going to score one in the middle at 4.25, and that will be our card base. If you have a bone folder, that will help you get nice crisp edges for your card. And then we're going to set this aside. Next, we're going to take our 5.5 by 4.25 piece of basic white, and we're going to run this through the embossing machine using our rectangle stitch die that will help us to get a nice card insert. So I'm just going to run that through the machine. And then you're going to use your adhesive. I like to use tape runner. And you're going to put that piece inside your card. Try to center it. If you use glue, it's a little more forgiving. It lets you slide it around. And once you have it where you want it, go ahead and rub it down so that it sticks. And now we're going to set this aside. So next, we're going to work with our critter. So get your 4.5 by 4.25 inch piece of basic white and your tuxedo black. And let's stamp our bunny. I am using an E block. This will fit on the D block if you corner it, and it will stamp fine. It just will look like it's not going to fit, but it will fit. Okay. So now we're going to color in our critter. So something you'll notice if you got the entire suite is that while the bunny comes as one stamped image in the puddle, the die cut that goes with him does not have the puddle. So you want to keep that in mind of what kind of card you're making whenever you color him in, because if you're going to be making a card where you're not using the puddle, you do not want to color in past his foot, or you're going to wind up having blue on your image once you die cut it. I'm going to keep it simple, and I'm going to keep my bunny white, and I'm going to just use my light Flirty Flamingo to color in his nose. I like to use the longer edge. I know some people for smaller items like to use the bulleted edge. You use what you like. These blends are designed to be blended, so you can use the dark and the light if you want to give a little bit of dimension. I like to start with the light and then use the dark, and then I go back in with the light, and I kind of just do a circular motion and blend it out. And I'm going to use Daffodil Delight for the raincoat. I like to start by outlining it in the light color. And you want to work somewhat quickly because you don't want it to dry before you have a chance to blend it. And then I go back in with the dark, again using the longer edge, and I kind of just hit the places that I think there might be shadows. I like to get right under his chin, go down the front, and get his collar. It's really just a matter of how you want it to look. And then I just go back in and I blend it. Just keep in mind that with each layer, it is going to get darker. So if you want a really light ethereal look, you're not going to want to go over it as many times. Okay. Now we're going to do our puddle. Just going to give a little shadow to under where he is, since his foot is there. Maybe a little bit at the bottom. And I'm actually going to just leave it alone. If you have a color lifter and you want to give it a little more dimension, you can go and use that as well. And that will kind of take some of the color up and give it a little more. dimension. Okay, so now we're going to die cut our bunny using our Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. And as I mentioned, it's going to give us 2 pieces. So you're going to use your snips to fussy cut out the puddle. So when I fussy cut, I like to make the paper I'm cutting from small so it's easier to move. And I kind of just start at one edge and I try to just keep a continuous motion without stopping. I leave a little bit of white on the edge. You can always go back in and trim it down if it doesn't come perfect the first time, but I just like to try to get it right the first time. Okay. And then go ahead and get that little edge. Okay. And we've got 2 pieces, which we will use in just a little bit. So we can go ahead and set our critter aside with the front of our card. We'll come back to him later. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our other piece of Balmy Blue. So we started with a whole piece, we cut it in half, and now we are going to cut down this piece so that we can use our die cuts. You don't have to actually cut it down, you can leave it whole. We're going to use our Give It a Whirl dies. And we're going to start with our card base piece. And just position it where it goes and run it through your Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. And what you're going to have is the front. It has the little hole where we're going to eventually put our bread. Next, we are going to run this through using our In the Clouds embossing folder. Now for these embossing folders, the line at the bottom helps you to line it up so that you get it where you want. The biggest mistake I make when making this card is forgetting that I need my clouds to go left to right. So you can put it anywhere you want. If you want to line it up with the line to try to make it as symmetrical as possible, you can do that. But the most important thing is to make sure that that notched edge is on the right side of the card and that the clouds are going from left to right. And we're going to run that through the machine next. You could use the lines also to kind of just line it up, figure out where you think it looks good. And that's going to give us our embossed card front. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go back to our Give It a Whirl dies, and we're going to get the triangle piece. And make sure you put it face down. We're going to line up the hole and figure out where we want to position it, and we're going to run this through the die machine. we now have the front of our card. We are going to next take our piece of basic white. Which is the other half of the white cardstock that we started with, if you started from a whole piece. And we are going to get out the gear die from Give It a Whirl. Again, make sure it's face down so that it actually cuts, and run it through our machine. So now we've got our wheel, and we're going to go ahead and start stamping. So let's start with Daffodil Delight. And the nice thing about these is that you can kind of see through them, so you can see whether you have enough ink on them, if you have any white spots, depending on how you want to do it. So again, I told you that you'll see that there are grooves, and that should help guide you where you want to stamp. You want to make sure that the triangle is facing down and that you're stamping right in the middle. So go ahead and stamp our sun. If you want to tape these are here. Okay. And then when that dries, we're going to put a little bit of Wink of Stella on it just to give it a little sparkle. You can see that just gives it a little shimmer. Next, we're going to turn it and get it to where we can see the triangle facing down. And the next one we're going to do is our raindrops. So we're going to go ahead and use our raindrops and ink that up in Balmy Blue. And then position that. You want to position it a little bit to the side so that it fits in the triangle. And next, make sure the triangle is facing down. Now we're going to do our clouds. And for the cloud, we're going to use our Stampin' Right marker. You're going to color directly on the stamp with the marker. We're just going to use the largest of the clouds. So just color the parts of it you want to stamp. And then you're going to huff on it. You're going to just put some warm breath on it a couple times and then stamp while it is warm. Try to get it right in the center. There we go. Now we're going to take our gray granite Stampin' Blends, and we're going to color it in just to kind of give it that gloomy look. So I start with the light, and again I kind of go around the edges using my long end. And then, depending on how dark you want it, you can go back in, kind of make it a little bit of shadows. You can go ahead and hit the lines just to give it some more dimension. Just blend it till it looks the way you want it to look. And now we're going to assemble our card. So we've already got our base, we've got our stitched front, we've got our stitched inside. So we're going to start with the base, and we're going to take dimensionals, turn it around. We're going to use dimensionals on the 4 corners. And the main thing, if you want to use more than 4, you can. If you want to use 3 down the long side, just be careful not to put dimensionals in a way that's going to obstruct the spinner. That's why I like to try to use 4. And you'll see why in a second. So I'll use 3 on the long side. You just want to keep it away from there. Oops. Next, we're going to take our wheel. I'm going to face it this way. See, that's why you can't put one there. Okay. 4. There was a reason. And we're going to turn it and position it so that our items are right in the middle. You want to line up those 2 holes. And then we're going to use our brads. So these are the black and white brads that you can get from Stampin' Up. Use whichever color you like. I'm using black for mine. And you want to just poke it through, get it set in there flush, and then bend it down. These are a little tricky. They don't always position perfectly the first time, but with a little practice you'll get there. And you just want to make sure it spins, which it should, if you didn't put your dimensionals too close to the edges. And then we're going to just go ahead and adhere that to the front of the card. Center it as best as you can. Obviously, make sure it opens correctly. And when you have it where you want it, press down on your dimensionals. Next, we are going to set that aside and we're going to stamp our sentiment. We didn't do that yet. I like to use the grid paper to try to keep it as straight as I can. We're going to use our Memento Black, but you can feel free to use a different color if you want to make it brighter. I just tend to like that for the sentiments for most of my cards. And then you want to kind of position it, go a little towards the left edge, because we're going to cut this down to fit it however you want, but use the grid lines to help guide you. And if you mess it up, you can just flip the paper over and try again. There you go. And then we could use our snips, or if you want to make sure it's completely perfect, you can put it on the trimmer. You can cut it at an angle depending on how you want it. Okay, and we'll set that aside. And now we're going to assemble the rest of our card. So we are going to basically just figure out where you want everything to go. Now that we have everybody but our heart cut out, and we'll do that last. But kind of just figure out like where the placement is. I think sometimes the sentiment can be the trickiest part of making this card. Just figuring out where you want it. If you want to shorten it, if you want to cut it down more. I feel like less than ½ an inch is a little difficult to stamp on. But we're going to start, once you know where you want everything, we're going to start by putting our puddle down. So put some adhesive on your puddle if you're using glue, tape runner, and you're going to kind of want to position it so that it's right under his foot. It's going to give a really cool 3D effect. Once you have it where you want it, press it down. And then we're going to pop our bunny up on dimensionals. I would recommend starting with your sentiment next, kind of frame him out. I like to put the sentiment right underneath the brad, and see these lines in the embossing kind of help to make sure that you're not putting it on there crooked. And for the bunny, I just used 2 dimensionals. One on his head and one on his body. And just pop him up so that his foot fits in that outline. I've seen a lot of different things that people have been doing with this bunny to make up for the fact that the die only allows you to cut this out in 2 pieces, but I actually really like how this looks. I think it gives it a nice 3D effect. Okay, and last but not least, we're going to cut out our heart from the Radiating Stitch die set. We're going to use the heart, and we're going to cut that out on our last piece of Flirty Flamingo, and that is going to be the finishing touch on our card. And I just use some adhesive on this, on the back of it. Put it where you want it. Position it where you think it goes well. And then if you have your Wink of Stella and you haven't already done it, go ahead and put a little Wink of Stella on the raincoat. It'll give it that glistening, rainy look. And you can even put some on the puddle under the bunny's foot. And there you go. That is card number 1.